Hello everyone, and welcome to this guide to Workers and Resources Soviet Republic with me, Mangy Panda, where today we're going to be covering the waste system within the game. Now to start off with, what is waste? It's simply put just the trash that your republic generates. It will be produced in your residential buildings by the citizens that live there. It will be produced in your service buildings such as shopping centers, cinemas, stuff like that as people work and use the services, and then it will be produced by your various industries such as food factories, gravel plants, all of that. And then you now have to have some way to deal with the waste that is generated within your republic. Now, to start off with, you have two main types of waste that you will encounter at the beginning of the game. You'll have mixed waste, which is just your general trash, and hazardous waste, which is waste that is generated by specific buildings such as hospitals and chemical plants that has to be dealt with separately from your general mixed waste. So how do you handle with the waste within your republic? Well, the first thing you do is you build a technical service office and you buy waste trucks. Now, there are two different varieties of waste trucks. We have these waste trucks right here, which are the big container variety, and these waste trucks right here that are the small container variety. The difference is inside the various buildings of your republic, if we click on this and we scroll down, this is a small container. You see it only holds 0.12 tons. If we look at a house, it has a small container as well, 0.12 tons. But if we look at our industrial buildings and scroll down, they have large containers. Each large container holds 6.5 tons. But the internal storage for your various businesses will be different. So you'll need a mix of both to be able to service your republic. And as you can see, like when we looked at the shopping center, we haven't been picking up the trash here. So our people are still generating trash. So our waste disposal system is overloading. So we need to get in there and we need to get it picked up. So the basic level, when you're first starting up, your trucks can service your individual buildings. And then you can either take that to the border to have it disposed of, or you can dispose of it yourself within a dump. And there are several different varieties of dumps within the game. There's the basic free dump, then there is the small dump, the medium dump, and then the dumps with claws in the three different varieties. The main difference between these, the dumps with claws, if you have power connected to them, they make loading much faster. Unloading at any of the dump is the same speed. But at these three dumps, if you want to load the trash to move it someplace else later on for sorting or processing, imagine that the dump truck driver is out with a shovel, scooping up trash and throwing it in the back of his truck. So it's going to take a very long time for him to load at any of these. Suppose of these, they have mechanical machines with claws that grab piles of trash and deposit them within the trucks. So they move much faster. To start off with, we're simply going to tell our technical service office to dispose of everything at the border. And if we watch, now all of a sudden, all of our little trucks will jump into action and they'll travel to the various different buildings to collect the trash. But you notice our large container trucks are not moving. And the reason is we have not generated enough trash inside our food factory. Even though we have almost 3.5 tons of waste, these are not going to dispatch till they can get a full load of 6.5 tons. Whereas these will respond to any of the buildings where their trash is full. Actually, they will respond before the trash is full. But so for right now, each one of these is going to travel to its own building. So we'll speed it up a little bit and we'll watch this truck right here. So he's going to this house. And he's going to load up, and he loaded up 0.14 tons of mixed waste. And now he is going to go to the custom house and dispose of that. Now you'll notice he can haul 4 tons of mixed waste, but your technical service office will only dispatch vehicles to one building at a time. So this is a very inefficient way to handle your trash. Your trucks will be simply hauling around 0.1, 0.2, 0.12, 0.13, 0.14 tons of waste and going to the border. Very quickly, this will overload your border crossings. So how do you set up a more efficient way to gather trash? Well, that's where your trash stands come into play. And they come in 6 different varieties. You have 4 varieties that revolve around the small containers and 2 varieties that revolve around the large containers. Both of these are the same size, the same number of containers. The only difference is one is connected with a footpath, the other the road. Same with these right here. And if we go in here and we look at our waste, we look at our containers, so the smaller stand holds 0.72 tons of mixed waste. And the larger stand will hold 2.2 tons. If later on you learn the ability to recycle and separate, then you can set these containers specifically to hold certain types of waste. So you can say, I want to have X number that hold mixed waste, so many that hold metal scrap, so many that hold biological waste, and on down the line. To start off the game, the only waste that you can separate out is construction waste and hazardous waste. Everything else will be disposed of as mixed waste. And then finally, you have the two large container stands. And these, if we come into waste right here and we look at them, the smaller variety will hold 52 tons and the large variety will hold 156 tons of waste. So you see there is a large difference between even the biggest of the small containers only holds 2 tons, whereas this one will hold 156 tons. Now, one thing to learn about these is that buildings such as our food factory that use large containers can only deposit their trash into large container stands like this. However, buildings that produce small weight or use small containers can deposit into either the small containers or the large containers. So my suggestion, my rule of thumb is that I always exclusively use the large containers. I do not use the small container stands because these will hold so much more waste. It'll make less trips to the border crossing or wherever you're handling your waste. But for right now, we'll go ahead and we'll take a couple of these small containers with the footpath connection and we'll squeeze them in here where we can. All right, so where can we fit you? All right, we can fit one right here. And we'll connect the footpath. Now your citizens, regardless of the footpath that's connected, will only walk 125 meters to a trash container. If it's farther than 125 meters, they will not drop off. So if we look up here and we click on this, it will show that we have one building within range, and that's it. Let's see if we can improve that. So if we connect this here and this right there, now we go and we look, and now we service all 3 of these buildings. So if we look at this house, so it now has 0 waste because it's been serviced, but it's not accumulating any more waste. But this is beginning to accumulate waste because the people living in these 2 buildings and working at the cinema will transport their waste to here to be disposed of, and it will no longer accumulate inside their internal buffers until this is full. If this becomes full, then the internal buffers will start to fill up. But if we look at this house, it was just serviced, but it's already beginning to accumulate waste because it's not connected to a trash service. So placing these waste container stands throughout your republic means that your waste trucks no longer have to travel to the individual buildings to pick up, and they will travel directly to the container stands. This will also allow them to haul away more waste. Because like we said, this one right here holds 2.2 tons of waste. So if this becomes full of all mixed waste, then one of these trucks will dispatch and it will load up 2.2 tons of waste instead of just 1.2 tons or 0.12 tons. Now, not collecting waste will increase pollution within your republic. It will make your citizens unhappy and will make them sick. Okay, so the next step is beyond just transporting to the border. How do you handle waste? Because transporting to the border puts strain on your border crossing, but it also does cost you rubles. It's not very much, but it does cost you some amount of rubles. So again, you can transport it directly into a dump and let it sit there, and it will sit there forever until you do something else with it. Or once you unlock the appropriate technology, which if we come in here and we look at the research and we scroll down to our trash section right here, you see we have the ability to do waste separation. once we do waste separation, then we can get various separation plants and recycling plants. Also, we have the ability to just burn our waste from the start, and then eventually we can learn how to burn our waste to create either energy or heating. So to separate your waste, you can, once you learn that technology, you can go in and, like I said, you can designate certain containers to hold certain waste, and your citizens will automatically separate whatever waste that they generate. Now, through deconstruction stuff, you will still get mixed waste. So if we look at this waste right here, we can see that it's composed of some metal scrap, not much, 5% plastic waste, 20% biological waste, 20% burnable waste, and 20% other waste. So if we had this set up to separate, now that we have the metal scrap and the plastic scrap and the biological waste, these will begin to fill up. So you notice we have 0.01 tons of biological waste now, and this will no longer contain those scraps. Then you can haul them away to various either dumps or reprocessing plants. Now, again, depending on how far away all that is from your city, your waste trucks can be spending a lot of time driving out to wherever you're having to dispose of trash. And so then in a larger city, they may get behind in picking up waste. So what I recommend is setting up a central hub for you to handle your waste. And that is this setup right over here. So instead of going to the border crossing, what we're going to do is we're going to tell all of our trucks that they are going to deliver their waste to here. So metal scrap, construction waste, aluminum scrap, biological waste, plastic, hazardous, and mixed waste. Then we have here a large dump with a claw, and this is set to handle only mixed waste because dumps can only store one type of waste, period. Then we have these transfer station here. And if you come in under waste, down here at the end, you have transfer stations. You have a small one and you have a large one. What these transfer stations do is they have large containers that you can go in and you can designate exactly what those containers are going to hold. Then when your waste truck picks up its waste from over here and comes and delivers it here, the waste will automatically be sorted into the proper area. Then you have a distribution office here full of large waste trucks because these are all large containers. So it's very quickly for them to come in and load these containers, and they can quickly load from here. And you have them pick up the various waste products from these locations. Don't have them go to the road cargo station. You want that left open for your waste trucks to come and deliver the trash. These guys can quickly go out to these and load and unload. Then you can either tell them to dispose of it at the border, or they can dispose of it at a dump. The next step is processing your waste within your republic. So there's a couple things you can do. So you can burn your waste, which right here we have the various types of incinerators that you can use. There's either the regular incinerator, which simply just burns the trash, and then it will output mixed waste, which is going to predominantly be ash, depending on whether or not you have pre-sorted your trash. It cannot burn any type of metal scrap, aluminum scrap, or construction waste. All of that will still be outputted into the scrap or the waste that you output, so it will not be 100% ash. Now, ash will slowly dissipate over time if it's left in an open air storage. If it goes into containers like a transfer station, it will not dissipate. Then you have your large version of the incinerator, does the exact same thing. Then you have your incinerator power plant where you can burn your trash to create some amount of electricity, and then the heating plant where you can burn it to create some amount of heat. I do not recommend ever using the heating plant because the trash that you're burning is not going to be a reliable source of fuel to keep your heating plant up and running. So you will have periods where it is not running, and then you will have citizens that begin to freeze. Same thing with the power plant. Early on, it's okay to use because if this is your only source of internal power and you're still relying mainly on importing power, then the fact that it gives you spotty coverage is not a big deal. But once you begin producing your own power, either through a coal, gas, or nuclear power plant, this becomes problematic, because if it can't output power because your grid is already full, then it will begin to back up, and then you will not be able to dispose of your trash. So I recommend just sticking with the basic incinerators. Now, the next step within your recycling, or within the process, is recycling your trash to be able to handle all the rest of that trash. So if you sort your trash, you can come over here and you can set it up into various recycling plants and things that will deal with the trash that you have. So first off, you have the waste treatment plant. This is what is used to handle hazardous waste within your republic. And what it does is it takes hazardous waste, mixes it with chemicals, and just converts it into regular mixed waste. So then that will have to be outputted into a dump or something like that to be further processed. Then you have the general separator. This takes in regular mixed waste and separates out your construction waste, metal scrap, aluminum scrap, and plastic waste. Now you'll note there is a percentage associated with this. What that is if we bring in waste and it has 100 tons of construction waste mixed into it, 65% of that construction waste will be recovered as construction waste, and the rest will be converted into other waste. Same thing with metal scrap. It does 85% aluminum, and 60% plastic waste. This is the only building where you can separate out construction waste and plastic waste from mixed waste. You can separate them out beforehand, but once they're in the mixed waste, this is the only place where you can separate them. Next, you have your scrap separator, and this will separate metal scrap from mixed waste. It will not separate anything else, but you notice it does 98% of the metal scrap as opposed to 87. So you're recovering more of the metal scrap and outputting less other waste. And then finally, you have the aluminum separator, which will recover 97% of the aluminum scrap within the dry waste or the mixed waste and output the remainder of it as other waste. Then you have your recycling plants right here. So you start with the gravel recycler, which this will convert construction waste into gravel. The plastic recycling plant, which converts plastic waste into plastic. The steel recycling plant, which converts metal scrap into steel. And finally, the aluminum recycling plant, which converts aluminum scrap into steel. That way you can get useful products back out of your waste. And let's go ahead and turn these guys on. And so what I have set up over here, this is a very basic setup for sorting your waste and disposing of it. The last thing is the biological waste. The only thing biological waste can be done with besides burning it, you can turn it into fertilizer with a composting plant. So you take the biological waste, you mix it with a little bit of chemicals, and it will output fertilizer and mixed waste. So it will take 80% of the biological waste and convert it to fertilizer. The other 20% is outputted as other waste. However, it only has one factory connection. So you have to set up a transfer station, and you have to set some of the containers to hold mixed waste, some of it to hold fertilizer, and some of it to hold biological waste. So this way it can pull the biological waste out of here and then output the fertilizer and the mixed waste. And then you can have a distribution office come and pick up everything from here. So here's our basic setup. And again, this is just a very basic. It's not set to handle at certain percentages and be the most efficient. And you'll notice I left out the aluminum recycling. The reason for that is that until you get into manufacturing of craft or you begin mining bauxite, you will not get aluminum waste. We'll may have some aluminum waste in here because all of this is just waste that I brought in from the border just to demonstrate how the process works. So we have one dump here that is set to hold hazardous waste. And if we look, this contains metal scrap, biological waste, fertilizer, burnable waste, hazardous waste, other waste, and some ash. And then this one is set up to handle just mixed waste. Okay. So it's very important that you put all your factory connections as one way, because these will input waste and output waste. And if you don't put it as one way, they will import and output from the same place. And so it will just create a loop where nothing is done. So we notice our little factory here, our waste treatment plant, we are importing hazardous waste. Oh, and we forgot to deliver chemicals. Let's get that taken care of real quick. Load chemicals. Here we have the metal scrap separator. And it is importing mixed waste right now. And you can see it is separating out the scrap. Now, since there is not a conveyor engine here, this will not begin to fill till the internal storage here is at 100%. Okay, it is outputting its output into this dump, which you can see it's going in and it's being sucked out immediately into the general separator, which is going to pull out the construction waste, the metal scrap, and any aluminum scrap that happened to get mixed in there. And it's going to output construction waste to here. It's going to output the rest of the scrap here. And then it's just going to keep the aluminum scrap inside here, and we can pick that up later because the metal scrap has already been pulled out. So if we look right now, it hasn't done anything because what's coming out of here hasn't had any construction waste or anything in there. Okay. Then we pull all of this into our incinerator, where the incinerator is going to burn everything. And this is the percentage at which it burns. So biological waste that comes through this system, 70% of it will be burned away, and the other 30% will be converted into ash. Fertilizer, it only burns 30%. Burnable waste, it burns 100%. Other waste, 80%. Hazardous, 50%. And plastic waste, it can burn at 80%. And then we'll come here to where we're outputting our waste, and you'll notice the composition of this waste is 100% ash. There's nothing else in there because we have already sorted everything else out previously. So the only thing that's making it into here is biological waste, fertilizer, if there was any mixed in, burnable waste, and other waste. No hazardous waste is going in, even though hazardous waste will be converted, 50% burned off, the other 50 is ash, but there's no plastic waste going in, there's no metal scrap, aluminum scrap, or construction waste. All of that is being pre-sorted. So you see we are chugging right along here with our metal scrap sorter. We now have the hazardous waste is now being processed. So if we see this is slowly going down as it's being pulled into here and processed, and this is slowly going down as it's being pulled into here and processed. This is processing at as fast as everything is being outputted from here. And that is waste. This is a very simple setup. It's not set to be the most efficient setup, but it gives you a rough idea of how you can handle waste. That's it for today's guide. Thank you very much. I hope you learned something, and we'll catch you in the next guide.